The DPP is the Digital Production Partnership. It's an organisation effectively set up by all the major broadcasters, post-production houses, other interested parties, independent production companies, to try and deal with file-based delivery of content between post-production and the broadcaster, which has traditionally been tape-based. It was almost the last tape-based part of the workflow, and it was real clunky. In post-production, you'd have file-based editing, and then you'd have to make a tape, take it to the broadcaster, who would then put it into a file-based transmission system. So this is about electronic delivery of content. And they have defined a specification for how that content should be delivered.
Okay, and the way that specification works is that we're aiming, the Ravensbourne, we're aiming to deliver content on air this summer via Sky. And in order for us to do that, then the students are going to have to comply with this DPP delivery. It's quite a process, and it's a process for us to learn, basically. But what it involves is that what previously would have been a kind of manual process of QC is now going to be an automated QC process as well as a manual process. And the metadata is added to the file. And there's different audio considerations. So, for example, it's going to work through an R128 audio monitoring, which...
This is loudness metering, so it changes the way in which sound is post-produced from being PPM-based audio, where nothing had to go above 6, and various levels that you would have for balancing the sound out. That's all gone, and it's now been replaced by a combination of loudness monitoring and true peak monitoring, which is what R128 is about. So it's new metering, a new kind of process to try and equalise sound across channels for viewers. The whole underpinning idea is that viewers get upset by having to adjust the volume in commercial breaks. And this is because the methods that we've currently got for monitoring sound are a little bit outdated for the sort of slick post-production tools that advertisers can use to make their adverts sound louder. And loudness metering overcomes that and equalises the sound out so that viewers shouldn't have to make these adjustments. But we don't currently have that technology or that in the building, so that's where we're going to. We're moving to put this in place in time for the degree show so that we can model exactly what industry is doing. This has all happened since the 1st of October 2014, when there was a date beyond which all content that was delivered to UK broadcasters had to be DPP compliant. That includes PSE, photosensitive epilepsy, and loudness monitoring, and automated QC, or AQC, which is a process that puts more onus on post-production to do much more of the QC process and less on the broadcaster. And that, previously, post-production would do an element of QC, but it was the broadcaster who would be the final arbiter of quality. And now it's really shifted the other way. It's shifted so that more of that onus is on post-production, and then they fill a form in that says that they've produced compliant content that is been QC'd, and that becomes part of the DPP package. So it's how we move that onus of the quality of the material back towards the post-production instead of being so emphasised in transmission. So it's quite a lot of change, I think, to introduce to get both staff and students used to for this year.
Yeah, it's going to be a quick turnaround for us to try and embed the hardware and software and actually make it happen for June. But I mean, it's part of the tsunami of change within post and production.
I quite like that tsunami of change. Yeah, this isn't a small amount of change. We're just under the next wave really of change. It's a continuous changing industry, isn't it?
And are there any implementation lessons you've learned thus far from industry?
Well, what we're planning to do is to go to industry really and say, what have you done, looking in the post side and in the transmission side, because we don't want to reinvent the wheel. And if they've found good ways of doing things, we need to model those, and so we want to minimise our learning curve really, so that we can adopt current industry practice. nothing else but to make sure that our students leave Ravensbourne knowing about DPP, because they're going to go into a world, if they're going to work in Soho or in UK broadcast, where they're going to hit this from day one. And we need to have our students aware of what the DPP package means.